You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. Once again, we are here today, and just like any time, we have another amazing show lined up for y'all today. We're going to be talking about healing and leadership because our guest, she is all about healing and being a leadership coach. She has an amazing website. Her first name is Denise, last name is Lee, and her website is that easy. It's the same thing, DeniseGlee.com. Again, that's DeniseGlee.com. We're going to talk about everything that she does with her healing and leadership coach style, everything that she does with helping entrepreneurs, from transforming from personal struggles to professional breakthroughs. We're going to learn also about her Introverted Entrepreneur Podcast and everything that she has to offer. But, you know, on this show, it's all about storytelling. It's all about the power of behind the scenes. We get to look through the lens of her life. Once again, I want to say, Denise, thank you for your time. How are you doing today?
I'm so good, Shmai. I'm so glad I'm here.
Well, I appreciate you being here. Let's kind of unpack for the audience as far as what got you to what you're doing today. What inspired you to take this route of becoming a healing and leadership coach? What's the story behind that?
Okay, so I just really want to let everybody know that nobody arrives feeling healthy, wealthy, sexy, and beautiful on a plan. So if you're thinking that you're going to listen to this and hear this roadmap to clarity and an insight, it's nothing like that at all. It's messy. It's filled with mistakes. It's filled with making a fool of yourself and everything in between. But for me, what would happen was that it was really moving from a place of productivity to purpose. And so we live in an area, an age that says, you have to hustle from one thing to another, to another. And I know everybody here is listening. They want that plan. They want that agenda. But actually, it's those moments of making one mistake and another and actually looking through the through line. So for me, I always wanted to help people. I really did. Maybe it was built out of control. Maybe it was built out of wanting to be the boss, but the real essence of it was saying, I really want to understand how to make something easier. So for me, when I was in college, I went ahead and I learned about how to first manage how to do the environment better. I had a degree in environmental science and geography, which I currently don't use, but the through line was, how can I make people understand to value the resources they have? Didn't understand that. Started doing project management, working for the federal government. Thought it was about controlling resources. How can I simplify things for people so they understand? Another through line, burned out from working for the federal government, decided to be a personal trainer, thought my behind was getting 5,000 times bigger by sitting on the seat. Thought that exercising, thought by teaching people how to get fit was actually helping me reinforce the learning. But it wasn't about that. It was learning about how to show people repetition and the joy of discipline. Phased out of that. Started doing business coaching online. Was a terrible online business coach, let me tell you very much. All my clients will tell you that very too. But I learned systems with people and caring. Learn that no one can run a good business if they have unhealed trauma and wounds. Phased out of that and realized what I really wanted to do all along was fix myself through each and every experience and through these people. So my purpose is in alignment with how I was built, my affinities, the things I take joy in, and consistency.
People, when they think about consistency, it's like, okay, from an amateur world, it's like, okay, if I do this for a week, man, I'm in the zone. But real consistency is when you don't feel like doing it. Real consistency is when something hits you unexpectedly and you still have to show up. Kind of touch on that part because it's easy to throw those words around and say, yeah, I'm consistent. But what does it really mean when you have to troubleshoot and you have to fix these problems that come out of nowhere? because that's the true test of being committed.
So you're in the entertainment business, and I don't know if you know this, but Kevin Hart, he has a company, his production company is called the Red Silo Cup Company. Kind of weird name, right? So what happened was that him and his boys, after any set or whatever, they be sitting down on the stoop with them red silo cups, sipping and talking about the set and whatever they learned. Every time he bombed at a city, he'd sit with the silo cup, take a swig of Henny or whatever it was on his hand, and it just kept over and over and over. How many silo cups they probably burned through was a lot. He wanted to commemorate that experience.
And that's a good point, because when you think about how you are actually making progress, I mean, let's just be real. You said in the beginning of the show, the true story is that is pretty ugly behind the scenes. I mean, you might get a little scared and be like, whoa, I didn't know success looks like that. But the thing is, part of growth and achieving the next level, if you will, is key decision making. And for you what it's like to have to go from one step to another as far as stages in life. You touched on having different jobs and different entrepreneurship opportunities. What was it like for you personally to balance your decision making skills, but also staying resilient, understanding that it's not like I'm going to flip the light switch on and all these blessings are coming out of nowhere?
That's such a good question, Shemaiah. Everybody wants the glory, but they don't want to understand the story behind it. And for me, it was not an issue of having the right mentor and making sure that I just checked all the boxes and things to do. It was about me learning to trust my ability to focus on a plan that was backed by my ability to show up even when it sucks. And so let me explain like what I just said. So for a lot of times, I just thought if I took the right course, I had the right person, I had all these things lined up, the right opportunities, then somehow I would be able to, with enough gumption or enough force and power, get what I want. But what I was really not understanding at the time, Shemaiah, was that what I wanted was not built out of trust in myself, trust in the process, trust in my ability to serve, but more of scarcity. If I don't do this now, I may not get anything later. Or anxiety. I had to keep showing up, because if I don't post 5,000 times a day, who's going to read my posts online, right? So what I really realized through and developing the resiliency is that it doesn't matter if the results happen the way I want it. It's about, can I believe in myself through the pain, through the grit, through the anxiety, and knowing that this too shall pass. We live in a world and a culture that keeps saying, add to cart, click now, get your solutions in a bottle or a pill, or now we're getting shots. And everybody's not realizing there's side effects to that. There's side effects for wanting things all at once and not understanding that your character is built through adversity. Just like the pressure of a diamond is built in pressure. So if you're trying to bypass that process, you're bypassing your own personal development.
You're speaking some facts with that character statement, because it's like philosophy. You think about Greek and all that. They really talk highly about character and quote unquote good and all that stuff. So you kind of speak my language there, because that will segue to this question. Speaking of character, you talked about earlier in the show about trauma and how if you don't address it, if you don't try to overcome it, it's going to have some roadblocks in the future, because it's going to not just be a distraction, but it possibly is going to prevent you from having the most growth that you can have, reaching your full potential. So for our listeners, our audience, and by the way, watch and listen to Refocus Radio, talking to our guest today, Denise Lee. When you think about unhealthy patterns, that can be something that triggers us to stay kind of plateau, if you will, because we're not comfortable of facing change or facing challenges. And a lot of times trauma or toxic things can put us in a cycle of doing a lot of unhealthy patterns. For you, how can someone who's watching this recognize and break those cycles?
So I want everyone to understand what trauma is first, if you don't mind, because we use, there's so many buzzwords thrown around: trauma and gaslighting, narcissism and crisis. Like what does that really mean? And so for some of y'all, it's not trauma. You just lazy. Let's just be real. But let's just be real. I'm gonna keep it 100. But 90% of us will feel some form of trauma. You live in life, okay? And when I mean trauma, it's meaning that an adverse situation, meaning like a big situation that happens either over a period of time, right? Or something calamitous, like a car crash or a plane crash, or you watch your mama get slugged out by her boyfriend, or just something, right? And so what happens as a result of those either chronically stressful moments, being underemployed, living in a rough neighborhood, having a mom or dad who's not available for you. Maybe you were caretaking your siblings because mom and dad were working or they got their things going on. Maybe as an adult, you were sitting there and had more month than the end of the money, and you were always trying to figure out a way to hustle to make sure that you have enough to provide for yourself. You went to sleep regularly without food in your stomach. So trauma looks different for everybody. Okay, it depends on your experience, your family of origin. There's generational trauma when my mama was a coal miner and my great mom was a coal miner and we all lived in the slum. And so there's lots of flavors within it. But the point of the matter is, regardless of if it was chronic over a serious time or acute, it makes you question not only what reality is, but who you are as a person. And so what does that look like? For example, if you've gone through a lot of, say, a poverty, right? Very common. You had a lot of financial insecurity, and you grew up in a family where the only time you ate was at school. If you don't deal with that pain of never having enough food to eat, you might find yourself overeating, hoarding, worshiping money. I was remembering talking, Shemaya, to one person. It was a very interesting conversation. She said, sometimes I just had celery in my mouth just throughout the day, like a pacifier, because the desire of having something in her mouth was insatiable. And so it may not be as extreme as like you're holding food in your mouth, but maybe you're hoarding money. Maybe you're suspicious about anybody who even talks about things that's sensitive to you. Maybe you find yourself being paranoid about somebody taking away opportunities from you. And so you're always guarded about telling people your business. Maybe you always have a negativity bias, meaning that you always just default to it's never going to happen to me, or I shouldn't even bother trying. It always happens to the X or Y or Z people. And so if you're not dealing with that now in the early years of your entrepreneurship or your whatever you're trying to do, it usually manifests or kind of develops into coping strategies that actually makes the problem worse. I think about one particular client that I had. She grew up in a family situation where her daddy was gone, and she found herself she built a freaking business defending deadbeat dads. And it was really built on the unhealed wound of daddy issues.
Well, when people think about pain points, that is a big part of why we do business or services or ministry or whatever that you're doing that adds value to the community. You have to identify, first of all, what's causing the pain. And then you just, if it aligns with your purpose and your mission, and then you can funnel something to make a service that's valuable, then that's a good step forward, versus if you blindly just step out in the ocean and say, I hope whatever I do next, I hope it wins. I mean, if that was the case, everybody named mama and dad would be doing business. And that's not how it works. If you're going in business, as someone told me, if you're going in business, just know, first of all, you're a little crazy, because it takes a little craziness to do something that no one's done before, and having to stay with it. And you have all these voices in your head like, are you sure that's going to work? When's the last time you guys sell? You know, it's like, it really gets you, man. And reality is going to hit you. But what I'm trying to say is, if you don't understand how much it truly takes to actually make something happen that's valuable, I like to tell people, the more valuable it is, the more, I would say, stress, because there's good stress and there's bad stress, the more tests you're going to have to go through, because you really don't know how much commitment it takes to do something that's of value until, like I've been saying, storms unannounced, they don't tell you they're coming. They just, boom, they show up. And you really don't understand what commitment is and what it means to be resilient until you go through storms. Because it's so easy to be like, yeah, got my website, got my business cards, got all this, yada, yada, yada. Look at me, I'm the boss. Well, you ain't boss until you really got to step up and you wear all the hats, or you learn how to delegate and create teams. All that takes levels. So what's your thought on that?
Oh, there's a lot to unpack on that, Shemaya, and it was just gold. I was just not, for those who are just listening audio only, I'm just grinning and nodding my head, because you definitely sound like someone who's been through the trenches. And so what I find very fascinating when I talk with entrepreneurs at different levels, like now I really work with people who have been in the trenches in a while and just trying to find clarity. But I remember in the beginning when I was doing business coaching, and they just said to me, well, I don't find any support. And I'm like, who are you talking to? People who don't have a business? No. People who have had a business? No. So of course, you're going to feel discouraged if you're talking to people who have no frame of reference to what you're saying. They're going to say, don't do it, because they don't even have the bandwidth to understand what you're doing. So that's error number one, right? And then the error number two is we glamorize commercials on Wix or Square Page or GoDaddy or all these stuff saying all you need is a business, or some micro influencer shouting out your name, and then boom. But here's the thing. Let's say Kim Kardashian found your lipstick, right? Let's just say she did. And she said, hey, guys, this lipstick is the best. And you didn't pay her $1 million, because you know she charges for that, right? But let's just say she did. Let's just say she just generally liked it. And you got this lipstick company. Do you even have the mental capacity to understand all the thousands of orders that would come in? Do you have the distribution? Do you have the capital to actually move all that product? Everybody thinks about all the end stuff, but they don't think about anything in between. And that just comes after going through the grind. It's hilarious. Shemaya, you probably know this already from your own personal experience. You get tons of yahoos saying, let's just collaborate. And you could just look through the email or whatever and be like, nah, dog, that's a pass, and hit the delete button. But before, you losing sleep. You try and contact 5,000 people to ask their opinion on it. But now you're like, forget this joker. That comes through being through the trenches.
I want to touch on that, by the way. That's an excellent point, because I got to help some people out there. I was you, okay? Back in 2017, when I started the podcast in barbershop, one, I had like 2 people listen to the show, and they all were related to me. And 2, it was hard to find people to get on the show. You know, people like look at me like I had 3 hats. What do you mean you want me on the show? What are we going to talk about? I don't know. I'm just trying to do the show. I'm trying to grow the show. Like, can you just help me out? You know, it went from begging to like, you speak for it 2025. I can't hit delete button too fast enough, man. Because one, it'd be like, man, this is going to be spam. And my audience do not like spam. They want someone with a story that's going to tell them something that's going to be of value, because that's what we're catering to. We are giving a service for our listeners, our viewers. We're not here to waste your time. We're not here to boast about what we accomplished and have notes like meat for them to chew on. Like we want them to be able to learn something and put something into action, or to be grateful by hearing someone's failures and say, wow, if they can go through all that mess and still push themselves to just be a person of success. And success is not defined by how many zeros you have. It's defined by your character. It's defined by who you are. That's what success is. When you get to go to sleep and have peace. I mean, I don't care how many zeros you have. I'd rather have peace when I go to sleep. So what I'm saying is, I've been there. I know it's like to try to grow something out of nothing. But one thing that a person told me was that success comes when you're ready. Now, some people might not agree with that, but if you hear me out, the person that showed me that, they were saying reason why is because it's the weight of success that crushes people. And to your point, Denise, when you talk about, for example, if a big celebrity took your lipstick and gave you a big plug and you got all these thousands and thousands of people, and you got like that much of budget to even ship them out. Like success comes to you when you're ready. And someone will say, well, I might have a different opinion. That's fine. But the point is, it's the weight of success. It will crush you if you don't have the infrastructure, if you don't have the game plan, if you don't have the people to delegate. It's going to crush you. And if you are trying to be a leader, then you have to understand being a leader means you have to fight. Like you have to go through some hell. That's no option. There's not one leader on the face of this planet that people respect or that people appreciate that has not been through something. So if you don't want to go through anything, don't try to be a leader.
Shemaya, I'm just going to be real with you on this. Not like we haven't been real, but I'm just going to get even super more real, like real to like the next level. So I just got back from Vegas, right? And so I'm in the plane, and my baby, my son, is in the window, right, chillaxing, doing his whatever, his programming on his device, and this is my quiet time, right? And so I'm in the middle seat. I got my Kindle out. I'm reading the Screw Tape Letters by C.S. Lewis. There's this woman to my left, right? She looks like in her mid-50s. And it's amazing what people do in their downtime. It shows you who is a leader mentally. So I'm thinking this is a great time for me to get my personal development time in, get myself, my spiritual health, my emotional health is just as vital as my tactical leadership skills. They're all interrelated. So I'm sitting there, I'm reading my book, right? I'm looking at this lady. She's scrolling through YouTube. She's scrolling through her feeds. She's looking at makeup tips. The entire 2-hour flight. Now, if this is how she wants to chillax, that's cool. She's taking photos of her family on the other side. I'm like, is this a grown woman or adolescent? See, here's the thing about leaders that people need to understand. Leaders just don't turn the off button on personal development just because they're off. You can keep learning and refining in different ways that doesn't have to do with your business. This is the through line that makes the winners from those who are thinking about wanting to be a winner. Yeah. Make it a habit to be critical of the content you're consuming. Now, I ain't say nothing to that lady. She can do whatever she wants to do, whatever. But I just thought it was very fascinating how I was using my time versus how she was using her time.
Once again, you're listening to Unfiltered Radio and watching us online. I wish to show us 10 hours long because there's no way it's already 24 minutes that went by. But we're talking to our guest, Denise Lee. There's so many things I want to say to the airplane, but for the sake of time, I'll say this quick thing and pass it back to you. What you just said is very, very important. And I literally had this conversation with a close person just yesterday. because I enrolled into, and this is real talk, I'm going to put the link in the show notes. I enrolled into a online course that's free online. And I ain't going to say the name. I'm just going to surprise you. If you want to stay tuned, just look in the show notes. And what's cool is I studied philosophy in Toledo. I went to University of Toledo, Ohio. And, just to double down what you said in that point, if you are not exposing yourself to new educational resources, you have the right to your opinion. Some people think just live free and have a blissful life. And that's fine. If that floats your boat, go ahead. I'm not going to have no battles with you, but I will say this, just that is on philosophy and ethics and Aristotle, all that stuff. It blew my mind. I'm like, man, this is like really not just interesting stuff, but I'm gaining so much momentum just being inside this class right now. And I feel if they don't take time to invest into their learning, you will never see the true potential that your life can become, because education it's like a cliche word to some people, because they're like, well, I'm not using it. Well, yeah, there's a lot of stuff I ain't used, but it's just the idea of exploring knowledge, wisdom, especially from ancient history, that really it also equips you. Because yes, you need experience on the field, but you also, I believe, if you can explore free resources out there for entrepreneurs and leaders or 9-to-5ers. I tell people I'm a hybrid. I have a day job and have my side hustle, and it works for me. I always try to preach to people, stop listening to those who just want to sell you a course or a high ticket item because they say get your parachute and jump all in as an entrepreneur. If you got the funds, do that because you got stuff to burn. But if you ain't got the funds, you might want to think it through. You might want to weigh out your options. And I say that and people are like, oh, he's giving bad advice. Well, if people buying all your high ticket items, do you have a 99% success rate? Exactly. So I say invest in yourself first and then grow and get your mentors and what you got to do. But I know I kind of went down the rabbit hole, but my point is to land the spaceship is that the airplane story. Education is very valuable. And if you do not take advantage of the resources out there, those resources are going to get dusty on the shelf and life is going to pass you by. And you won't even know what you could have done because you just hit skip. You just scroll through. You want to entertain yourself versus invest in yourself to grow to the next level. And it takes patience. Like, this show would never met you. Because if I had the patience, if I did have the times where, my website crashed and it was just messed up. I had nothing, had to start over, like all over. No more blogs, no more nothing. I had to start over from zero. That was harsh, but it was necessary.
I do have to say something that's been on my mind that I really don't talk about. And it's this idea that we have to be successful copying somebody else's playbook. And I guess if you want to do drop shipping or be an influencer, right? Yeah, there's some like clear paths that you can follow. But for most of us, we're designed to do weird stuff that is not currently advertised. And it's going to be an uphill battle. because people don't like new things. They're tribal. They want to follow what else is being populated. But in the moment of just trying to follow the crowd because they think safety and numbers and stuff like that, you're missing out on gold mines. I think about, everybody says Elon Musk is crazy right now. Maybe he is, but I digress. Right now, amongst all his things, right? People don't talk about his boring company a lot. They talk about his rockets and his Teslas, whatever. This man, they can't build. This man is digging tunnels all around LA. And everybody's not like, why are you building tunnels all around on LA? You've been to LA? You know what the highway's like? You want to go underneath them tunnels, right? He is tapping into something nobody even thought about doing.
Yeah. I agree to that because, to your point, I'm sure you know about Gary Vee, the marketing guru, the content genie, if you will. I just watched a video the other day. He was getting so much value advice to other aspiring entrepreneurs or just people who've been entrepreneurs for a long time. They just need some clarity, some advice, whatever. What I love about him and what he does, he said what you're talking about. Like, stop being so invested in trying to copy the next guy or the next lady and just find out what's going to work for you, because what worked for Gary Vee, it may not work for you. What worked for Steph Curry shooting those threes, you might love basketball. I'm stealing from Gary Vee. That's what he said in his story. You might love basketball, but that doesn't necessarily translate that you're going to be a great basketball player or be in the NBA Hall of Fame. Okay. It could be your dream, maybe in the next life. But, if you can barely jump 3 inches off the ground and if you get a little tired just running down the court just once, maybe you should look into something that actually aligns with you. Because I feel like the more we compare ourselves, the more we are trying to desire what someone else has already built. We don't know the work ethic that it took for people like Steph Curry, Michael Jordan, LeBron James. And if you're a LeBron James hater, that's okay. That's fine. We're not going to get in a debate. But we don't understand the kind of intensity that they had to bring to their own table in their own shoes. And for some amateur to be like, it can't be that hard to dribble the ball. It can't be that hard to shoot a three. I can be in the NBA. That's just talk, man. It's the same thing with business or, like I said, your ministry or your 9 to 5, whatever you're doing inside your community. You had to bring the intensity yourself. You have to know thyself. You don't know what that means? Just Google that phrase, know thyself, and do some homework. Because until you do that, until you are extremely focused on what you're trying to build, it's not being selfish, okay? Just ask Elon Musk how it's working out for him. Just ask Oprah how it worked out for her when she, worked her way through to have her own television show. Okay, just as all these famous people, it took extreme focus. And until you do that for yourself, you will forever be on that treadmill trying to chase something that's not yours. If it's for them, it's for them. What's for you, you have to discover. You have to be in the trenches. You have to unpack that package. It's going to take a lot of work. You're going to get tired. You're going to say, what the heck am I doing? You're going to say, I ain't got nothing but 2 listeners. But you speed up, 2025, speaks for itself. It takes time. Greatness is something that takes time. And the more time you spend and invest into it, the better it gets. If I would quit on this YouTube channel, I'm an introvert. I don't want to be on camera. I told you that in the green room. My lighting was so bad in September of 2024. I cringe when I look at those videos. I almost want to delete those videos because it's so embarrassing. But when you speed forward, it's like, wow, now I can give a class if I want to, how to be on YouTube. But I'm not because that's not my, you see what I'm saying? That's not my lane. And wrap up the spaceship to land on planet Earth. That's the point. If you can narrow down what your purpose, your passion is. You are not just in your own lane. You're in the lane that you can master.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I, if you don't mind, I wanted to give some quick facts because you mentioned some names I think people need to understand. For example, Gary Vee, he didn't want to be a content creator, guru mastermind. He just wanted to sling some wine for his family business. And for his wine channel for the first year, ain't nobody commented. For a straight year, Oprah was fired from her anchor job, and they said she was too emotional when she started her Oprah Winfrey show. There are so many more examples of people who you think they just showed up being sexy and rich and powerful. And there were a lot of times that they were ignored, ridiculed, in some cases dragged for what they were out. I mean, Kobe, everybody says Kobe. That's another example that just went through my mind. Oh, yeah, he was one, RAP, right? He was one of the best players. And how did he get from high school to NBA? My man was working 15-hour days, 7 days a week, working on his I don't even know what they call it when they throw it in. Yeah.
Shot. Yeah.
15-hour days. He was at it. He was the hardest working dude out there. There was a reason why they called him the Mamba. He was a hard working dude. And so everybody who thinks, well, I just can't do it. Well, maybe you're trying to do it the way that you see somebody else doing it, but that's not even you.
Preach. Say that like twice, because when you, all right, I'm passing it back to you, but when you take your eyes off your progress and off your journey, off your process, as soon as you do that, I just said this yesterday in the show, what happens is we look in the rearview mirror, and I know y'all heard that 1,000 times, the quote, whatever, but it's true. But what I wanted to add to that quote is, if you keep your eyes on the objects in the rearview mirror, you're moving away from those objects, and they're getting smaller and smaller. It's dangerous when you do that, because not only can you crash because you're not paying attention to what's in front of you, you also are missing on the grand opportunity of being in the moment as you're making progress. Because when your mind stays in the past, your future is basically a mirror of your past. Because until you do something different now, I could turn this, let me just do a demo. I could have bad lighting, turn it off, and I can do it all the way. But it's like, that's process. You have to be in the game. Like, we're in March Madness right now, right? Everyone's favorite teams, no-name teams that no one's ever heard that school's name before, and they're winning. They're in the moment. They have the great opportunity to prove the naysayers wrong. You watch and you listen, and you have the same opportunity. Denise been saying the whole show. It's that time. If you don't jump in now, when will you? Right? Michael Rappaport, when he's on my show twice, he gave me some great advice that changed my whole direction with the show. I asked him a question. I said, what will you say to those who want to be like you? Like, you're famous actor, Men of Honor, the Cuba Gooding, all these different movies you've done in the 90s. You have millions of downloads on your podcast show. What would you say for those who are trying to do what they're trying to do, just like you did what you did in your own right? He said, you got to jump in, and in the pool, you got to jump all in. You can't dip your toes in the pool. He said, there's too many people that's trying to survive as well. So the difference between you and those people is what you do. I'm going to say that again. The difference between you and the other people is what you do. If you ain't doing nothing, don't expect nothing. Because we want to do something and we want the microwave success. Hey, if I just say this phrase 3 times and then magic is going to happen tomorrow morning, I'm going to have an influx of emails. Everybody's going to say how much they love my show. And you're going to get so much people saying, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Why are you still doing this? What's going on? Don't you have like 5 listeners now? You know, like it's going to be like drilling, you know, but guess what? You have the power to say, I'm going to shift my focus on what's possible. That's where the magic happens. If you keep your focus on the naysayers, or keep your focus on your weakness, guess what? You're delayed on the airplane scrolling. Instead of you taking that time to educate yourself, instead of you taking time to be inspired by someone who is already there, but you can learn from them. Instead of you watching a Gary Vee video to be inspired by, you know, some tricks and tips and, you know, just knowledge that you can absorb and put into work, put into practice. One thing he always drills to his viewers is you have to do it. Heck, he might see his video. I'm just saying, but the point is, until you actually get into the zone of doing something, you're forever going to push tomorrow, maybe tomorrow. And tomorrow may never come.
I find it a very interesting form of math is that the people who complain the most are always the ones who do the least.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'll tell you right now, when I had 2 listeners, I was complaining the most. It was always everyone else is not supporting me and I'm doing all this work, yada, yada, yada. It's always like you always avoid the root problem. And the funny thing is we never want to look in the mirror. We want to hold the mirror in front of everybody else and say, oh, look at you. You're this kind of person. You're doing me like this and blah, blah, blah. But we want to avoid looking at ourselves. We won't be like, no, let's skip that area of my life. All right. But no, sometimes you have to address what is it that you are not understanding, not doing, or have someone on the outside give some feedback that will hurt your feelings. It's going to be painful. You're going to be embarrassed, but that's necessary. Growth cannot happen until you are challenged. If you're not challenged, you're in the wrong place.
I have a precursor, if I might add to that, before having the feedback, because that's rough, is I want for people to understand the idea of reception, meaning that you can't receive nothing. You can't be receptive if you have things clouding your mind. I'll give you a perfect example. Going back to the airport example, because it's fresh in my mind. So I'm with my son and we're walking around trying to pick up some goodies before we hop on the plane, because I don't want to pay $5 for like a 4-ounce bag of chips. But anyway, not that I'm getting a good deal at. So I'm walking around. I see some of the newspaper stuff and I see some books and whatnot. And I see this, I'm not going to name the magazine. It doesn't matter who it is. They're like, well, Ben and Jen, they're getting back together, you know? And I'm like, I'm sorry. I literally paused and thought about, like, who cares? Even if they got together, how is that impacting your day to day? I was looking at the book selection. I saw Malcolm Gladwell's Talking with Strangers, excellent book. I saw Blink. I saw some other stuff. I was like, good. I'm like, I've read some of the book already. Timeless stuff. Nobody was around there. Everybody's around picking up the newspapers about gossiping about people that they don't know. And they don't know about you either. And the only one who's getting paid are the people who's selling and distributing the content and taking the money shot photos. And so how in the world can you even be receptive to hearing feedback if you fill in your mind with all this garbage that's not even pertaining to your reality? How can you even think about making the questions clear in your mind to ask if all you think about is who Ben Affleck is sleeping with today?
That's true. That's true. We're going to have a part 2 because this was too good. This was too good. And I feel like people are going to appreciate not just what was said during the show, but hopefully they'll be able to be encouraged that here's the thing. If you feel like you're stuck, all right, the thing is, we're all human. But if you really want to advance your skills and advance your career or advance your business, straight up, real talk to you, you have to believe in yourself that you can do it. And then you have to understand, what is it going to take for me to get the right path? Because you might start this one day and then it just flops. You have to be honest with yourself. Is this something I continuously still want to do? Or is it like what I said earlier? You have the dream to play basketball professionally, but you can only jump 3 inches off the ground. They call you a little brick. You know what I'm saying? At that time, you just got to be real with yourself and say, all right, I might like this, but maybe my calling is something else. And what I understand so far in my journey is that your calling may not be the most popular thing, but if it's something that you can do without getting paid because you have that much passion to do it, then maybe you should go with a not as popular idea. And I know that kind of sounds different than hear gurus say, but I'm just speaking from my own path. And I feel like what you said about the airport, that was a great point. That's why I want to say what I said, because I think that is spot on. A lot of people want the flashy, the blah, 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 look nice, and it just kind of ties you in with the headlines or whatever. But all the boring books, all the boring stuff, they just want to ignore because they don't see the value first. When you see the cover, you see the value right away because you know that celebrity, you know that blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, I want that. Feed me some more donuts, right? But that broccoli over there, that celery, those green foods, nah, that's too boring. You have to at some point in life say, you know what? I may not be like this person that I feel is, my biggest inspiration as a celebrity or a leader or whatever. You have to be humble enough to say, even if I don't get to that level, I will take the pride to push myself and do what is necessary for me to get to where I'm supposed to be. You will know that until you just start doing what is necessary. Because you can talk a good game, but if you can't back it up, then you have to be like, okay, I have to rewind the tape. I need to get this right. I need to do it the right way. How you do the right way? Ask 10,000 people that question. They're going to give you some interesting answers. You have to just go, man. You just got to do it. Like Nike, you just got to do it, man. You just have to do it. If you don't, no one's going to ever believe in you. Ever. You have to just show up. So I'm sorry I took that last 5, 10, 20 minutes, but for our audience, what's the best way they can stay connected to you? And if you have any additional resources you want them to know about, feel free to share.
Yeah. So thank you again for this conversation. I hope that people take as much as they need right now. And if it's a lot to listen to, because I know we did drop a lot, please listen to it again, because I don't even know which one you should zoom into. But that being said, I am so passionate about educating, informing, inspiring people. My website, deniseglee.com, is not just a place for, obviously, you can learn about working with me. Yeah, that's great. Awesome. But I would really want you to learn from me first and learn about the underpinning of why I believe the things that I do. That's why I have a blog with over 200 posts long about burnout, resiliency, perseverance, not comparing yourself, understanding how to communicate with love, intentionality, and consistency. That's really what I'm all about. And then from then, I have a podcast, the Introverted Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm an introvert. I'm a true introvert, not because I have social anxiety, afraid about talking with people. No, I literally get my energy, my inspiration from consuming, passively observing. And so what I mean about introvert is I truly find more joy reading a book than being in the club. That's so that my podcast, Introverted Entrepreneur Podcast, but morally importantly, that I just really want people to understand is regardless of who you consume, this podcast is awesome. Love your I've listened to some of your shows already, Shemaya, but the idea is that are you intentional about why you're consuming it? Not just looking for inspiration for hope. What are you going to apply with what you read or consume? Because at the end of the day, all that matters most is that you have intentionality. Because without, you can have all the inspiration, but without the intention of what happens next, you're wasting your time. You might as well be watching South Park chugging a Heineken.
And on that note, you're listening and watching us online on Refocus Radio, talking to our guest, Denise G. And I'm not going to say nothing else because I'm going to say another thing. It's going to spark another topic for another 30, 45-minute talk. And I'm going to do y'all a favor and say come back because we'll be grateful to have Denise come back on the show because I think what happens is two introverts get on the microphone and we just not going to stop. Have to yank me out the camera shot for the show to close. So with that said, thank you, Denise, for your time. And people can go to your website. Appreciate what you do. And hopefully we can have you back on again.